My dad looked me in the eyes one day and said, if I ever try to have s3x with you, unalive me and tell everybody. And what he said was exactly the right thing to say, based in morals and natural law. Only chomos, enablers, flying monkeys, and Thalemite, Freemason law officials, and people who have a perpetual victim complex hate the Menendez brothers. I already knew this, but recently I've been having some encounters with this chomo guy who's been having the police help him sexually harass me, who wants to essay me and also has essayed his kids. And I remember a while back he went on this long rant with someone else who's also into parent worship and the cognitive dissonance that goes along with that. And they were talking about how the Menendez brothers thought they were going to get out and how they're sick and how you can never unalive your parents. And I already have a video where I talk about what I'm calling 6 commandment culture equals R-word culture and a lot of other titles that I have for it, even false martyr syndrome. That video is over an hour long. This also goes into something that I've talked about for years now that falls under projective heroism, where people feel like they could have done something better than the victim. But I feel like 6 commandment culture and parent worship culture and one-sided pro-choice culture / discipline culture, where the guardian or whoever is older can unalive younger people, but it can't happen the other way around, even in self-defense, but the older people can unalive younger people for no reason whatsoever and just call it being pro-choice or call it discipline. I also still have my projective heroism playlist, which goes into how younger people can't defend themselves, or really the victims can't defend themselves in general. This is all done by design. One of the reasons behind this is that, as I've been saying for years on end now, law officials, military, CIA, FBI, lawyers, judges, are all Freemason, Luciferian, Triple K, Thalemite, pro-chomo, serial unaliver, real men hating, perpetrator lovers. This is also why things are charged. No, hold up. This is why things are crimes for younger people that aren't even crimes for older people. This is also why younger people get life sentences for everything. This is also why, like I showed in one video, in a screenshot, there's like 12-year-olds with $1 million bonds. Yet people who are really doing stuff don't even get charged. I already have the video about on the Cash for Kids system where this one staff member that works for the Cash for Kids system admits that they create an issue that isn't already there, which is what they're really supposed to do. The human cash cow systems are Munchausen, as well as Ramco and other things like that. They also lock you up and turn you out and mess you up more, which, I mean, that's a part of creating the issue that's not already there. But like lawyers and judges love putting kids in adult prisons, and people think it's like a ethnicity thing. That depends, but really that doesn't even matter, because as I've always pointed out, white supremacy isn't really about them being against like just melanated people. It's about them being against each other, which is why there's different white supremacist sects. That's why there's the war between the serpent seed at the top, who actually run everything, and the lower level Caucasians, like the hillbillies and stuff like that. But they love locking up their own kids to get essayed and sodomized by juvie staff and even other people in adult prisons. Like, honestly, I've seen more documentaries about them locking up little white boys, but anywho. As I've always said, this is also why lawyers only ever give dads custody when they're essaying the kids. Other than that, they give the mom custody for her to abuse the kids and have them be tortured by her different boyfriends and whoever else she brings around. Nothing is done by accident. People also say this whole thing where they're like, the reason that they went to jail is because they took the law into their own hands. That's not the reason whatsoever. And also, we are the law. And we have rights to defend ourselves, even though those have been taken away. One, because once the B system rolls out and martial law gets worse, they're not going to want people defending themselves. That also goes into a lot of other things that aren't really the point of this video. Two, even though America's a sick country and we're all messed up, this goes into how society is a cult. Society is a religious cult. The Matrix is a religious cult. Everybody's acting like they care so much about morals whenever somebody defends themselves, but nobody cares any other time. Which this isn't even morals anyway. Self-defense is not red rum, if you know what that means, or at least spell it backwards. And it's not all of a sudden red rum if it's a parent or a guardian or some older trafficker or something that's over you. Which, of course, people do go to jail for being trafficked and for unaliving their traffickers all the time, every day, all day. Doesn't matter what their age is. Not that that would really make a difference, but I mean, even kids get thrown in adult prisons for unaliving their traffickers or for being trafficked. That's all done by design as well. But overall, this is really a slave trade gospel thing. And it's funny because I noticed, especially with the quote-unquote black community, they like to constantly make things about that, but they won't piece two and two together when it comes to how anti-self-defense culture is rooted in the slave trade gospel. And partly because they uplift CSA, well, really everybody does, but melanated people openly uplift abuse. And I definitely wouldn't say that they abuse kids more than quote-unquote white people. Although they constantly make jokes about how quote-unquote white people don't whip their kids, that's not even true. But I can definitely say melanated people are more loud and proud about it. Well, especially in communities with more money, not the South, but I don't know, for example, people in the West Coast or places like that. They try to cover up all the CSA imagery stuff that they do with their kids and try to have this fake perfect family picture, which is also why runaways and people who unalive their parents typically come from middle class, upper middle class, and rich families. They have so much more bullcrap going on because, for one, the organizations and bloodlines they're commonly in, where this stuff is just passed down and they turn out their kids, and that's a part of the programming. But anyways, since melanated people uplift abuse so much openly, they wouldn't want their kids to defend themselves from them. A common scenario is a quote-unquote black boy ending up hitting their SH00T the mom's boyfriend because he's trying to unalive the mom. And then, of course, the mom presses charges on the son, which, even if she didn't want to, he'd probably end up getting locked up anyways, just because laws are for the perpetrators, not for the victims. But then, of course, that sets him on a path of hating the Jezebelic black woman or just hating women in general, but that's not even really the point. But that also goes along with those situations. I even seen a video, which I've talked about before, where this quote-unquote black boy had, I guess he was adopted or something, but his grandma or stepmom or something like that was white and her husband was white, but he was always beating on her. And so the son had fought the grandpa, or at least pushed him away or something like that, and the cops came to arrest him. And then the grandma was like, no, don't arrest him. And then people were like, it's because he's quote-unquote black. It's not because of that. It's because of the same doctrines that you uplift, that the younger people are always bad, and that you can't defend yourself from a parent, or even defend, I don't know, your mom or whatever from the parent. And of course, the U.S. locks up more quote-unquote children, whatever that really means, than any other developed nation. And it's also funny, though, because, I know, a lot of quote-unquote black people, they uplift what was his name? The Nat Turner story. But what's the difference between this and Nat Turner? What's the difference between this and Harriet Tubman? You uplift that because you see that really any different, but it's really not, though, because the slave owners were the quote-unquote guardians pretty much. So what's the difference between that? That's still self-defense. I even seen this video where some quote-unquote white boy had unalived his parents because they were racist and they wouldn't let him date his quote-unquote black girlfriend, and the white people were in the comments saying this was so sinful of him to do, and why why are you, quote-unquote, black people acting like this was okay? And honestly, I could agree, though, to a certain extent, because it's like, but if this would have been the other way around, or, well, maybe, well, if this, like, let's just say this would have been, like, I don't know, quote-unquote, black boy unaliving his parents for whatever reason, they would have felt differently. So it's like, what in the world? Which also goes into how, especially with all the recent divide and conquer agendas, and people getting obsessed with these politics that are both on the same bird, people are constantly making CSA and really abuse of anybody political thing as if any side was different. I never even really understood how conservative, quote-unquote, white people would try to act like the alphabet community was so far from their culture, even though one of the biggest parts of slavery was Virgo Vaso turnout rituals. And that's why you'll notice that the conservative people are always down low chomos, and they like trans kids and trans adults, which I noticed a lot that, like, guys with paraphilias or guys who are like sexual predators, they really like trans kids for whatever reason. But I'm not even going to go into that. But anyways, parent worship culture. You're supposed to lay down your life to worship some person who obviously isn't for God and doesn't care about real natural laws, which even goes on that video I made, which was titled, what was it? I don't even remember, but it was about how, God, or, well, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was about natural laws, and it was definitely about how God's original design was anarchy. But of course, that was changed. And of course, I'm not religious. I know religious people are gonna, like, feel some type of way about this. Of course, because, like, people love the ASPD label, and they love to, like, label anybody off who really actually cares about themselves and other people and the atrocities in the world. They label them off as quote-unquote sociopaths and stuff. Because as I've said before, according to psychiatry, Batman is a quote-unquote sociopath. And Batman, he's never even unalived anybody. He doesn't even believe in that. He just believes in, like, fighting people and helping the victims. Which, of course, you have to focus more on, like, helping the victims. But of course, also, you have to save yourself. So typically, well, not even typically, you're really going to be the one saving yourself, because people don't really care what other people have going on. People don't even care about themselves. So what I learned years ago is that you have to save yourself anyway. So typically there's not going to be, like, some Batman falling out the sky to help people. Well, he can't fly anyways, but I guess he does, like, do a lot of, like, acrobatic type stuff. But yeah, so going back to the Chomo guy who went on that rant about how he hates the Menendez brothers, who essays or has essay, because he bragged about it, really, his own kids, and wants to essay me and other people into getting the cops to help him with his harassment. He also was essayed by his own parents, so this shows how he fell into the usual cognitive dissonance. They're still your parents. I still have to honor, quote-unquote honor them, worship them. I still have to do what they did to me to other people and whoever else I feel like I may be able to do it to. That's what this is. And all the people that are, like, talking against the Menendez brothers, they're either, what do they like to call themselves? Maps themselves. Or not even, I wouldn't even say the map thing. I don't even really like the whole minor label anyways. That's bullcrap. They're sexual predators themselves, and people who are perpetual victims. People who have been essayed so many times, and they're like, I'm always forgiven. Sitting around somebody who's torturing you and other people and not saying anything and not doing anything is not forgiveness. You're not a martyr. You're not turning the other cheek, like I say in the video where I talk about what I like to call 6 commandment culture. You're not any of those things. You're a coward, which I forget the verse that talks about how cowards go to HE double hockey sticks too. You're not anything. You're just somebody who's being victimized, and you, at this point, you like it. People can say what they want to say, but I have no sympathy for people with cognitive dissonance who are perpetual victims. And it's like, even the more I think about how I saved myself from my situation, it made me still, of course, care about other people, but it made me care less about people who just don't want to do what it takes to save themselves or even other people. I just can't have sympathy for it. You like being victimized at this point, and now you feel like everybody else has to accept it, like I showed on the screenshots in that video, or at least in the screenshot video, which was a separate one from the hour plus long one, where people are like, the Menendez brothers didn't know how to take family issues and abuse like everybody else does. Nobody should have to take jack diddly. And I'm not saying do anything to anybody, because due to how the Luciferian systems are set up, you will get charged and you will go to jail. So I'm not telling anybody to do anything, because I don't want you to spend the rest of your life locked up, continuing to get essayed and all types of bullcrap, and having people talk junk about you who are perpetrators that love essay, and making you feel like the bad guy. Because people like the Menendez brothers and all the different people that I've talked about, even in the Projective Heroism playlist, which are mostly other people's videos, are just like true crime bullcrap videos, but people like that who are locked up for unaliving, or even just escaping their traffickers and different things like that, they're being gaslit by the whole world. People who are locked up for being trapped or any of those things, they're being gaslit by the whole world. Obviously not everybody, but most people are okay with this and they like this type of stuff. And if you're one of the people that's saying, I was SA my whole life and I never even once thought about laying a finger on anybody, an example that I bring up all the time, good for you, but nobody cares. Well, I don't care about jack you have to say. I mean, it is good that you ended up somehow figuring out how to dissociate through that so you didn't get locked up for no reason, for doing your rights in the laws of the spirit realm and the natural laws and the universal laws of self-defense. Those are like literally universal spiritual laws. Just because some Freemason triple K dude who's essaying and trafficking his own kids, just because some lawyer or judge who's doing those things, because that's what they do, they traffic their own kids and other people's, just because they tell you that you're the bad guy, quote unquote, doesn't mean you're the bad guy. People really have to learn how to like break free from gaslighting, and it's really hard because you're going to be getting gaslit by most people. Like the people in the comment sections and stuff with the Menendez brother in similar cases, they're flying monkeys and enablers, more so flying monkeys. They're taken up for abusers and they get nothing out of it. Like Dr. Romney has videos about flying monkeys. Flying monkeys will take up for help smear campaign the victims, and they'll do all that stuff and get absolutely nothing in return. They don't get paid for it, they don't get a cookie, they don't get a brownie, they get absolutely nothing out of it, and they still do it. Enablers were typically abused by the abuser before. So I guess the people that are saying, I was SA my whole life, and I was burned with cigarette lighters, and I got my face bashed against the wall, those people could be considered enablers, although they most likely weren't abused by the same person as the victim that's being talked about. But like, I guess they could still be considered enablers. But I don't care about any of that. As far as I care at this point, I have no sympathy, because you like getting victimized and you want other people to like getting victimized too. And that's the moral of the story. So now I can go back to the original thing that I said in the beginning. What my dad said to me was the complete right thing to do. Now, of course, I would have still went to jail. Even if he would have, like, I don't know, wrote like an exit clause, like Rumpelstiltskin or something, and said that, like, I gave her permission to defend herself if I ever try this, I still would have went to jail. But what he said was still the right thing to say. Now, of course, obviously, he's, like, demonized and messed up, and there's a lot of stuff going on there that, with the fact that he felt like he needed to say that. But the fact that he even said that, though, still shows that he's better than most. And that would have been the right thing for me to do, whether I would have went to jail or not, which of course I would have. But, yeah. So, there's that. I also remember that somebody once said in the comment section somewhere that anybody who stands up for the Menendez brothers also stands up for Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And I'm not gonna lie. Back there in my evidence channels, I used to have a lot of people refer to me as like Gypsy Rose, and also what's that girl's name, or that lady's name, Britney Spears. But I mean, pretty much anybody who's in the industry has Britney Spears moments, and they try to break free from the MK Ultra. But I honestly feel like at this point, all that stuff that happened to her was like a humiliation ritual, and like her trauma-based mind control, because it seems like Gypsy is an industry plant at this point, especially with her like meeting with the Kardashians and stuff. Like, people who traffic their own kids and exploit their own kids are all of a sudden caring about Gypsy Rose. Those people being like the Kardashians, or I don't even know, are those the Kardashians or are those the Jenner people? I get those people mixed up. But either way, that's really interesting to me. But I still will say though, I wouldn't even advise doing anything. I would advise trying to escape, but some situations are definitely harder than others. Like if you're, I don't know, strapped to a table or chained to like a radiator heater in one of these experiment institutions, which those are really hard to get out of anyways. But I mean, human torture is human torture. People have really been dumbed down to believe that if you're not a victim, then you're a perpetrator. And this goes back into the whole Geronophile complex thing, as I've mentioned before. People that have been essayed their whole life and are used to quote-unquote dating people who are way too old for them cannot see themselves dating people their age, or in their age range more so. And so, they'll make people who date people their own age feel like quote-unquote peds. In their mind, if they're not the victim, they're the perpetrator. They'll be 16, quote-unquote, dating a 97-year-old, but tell a 16-year-old who's dating a 15-year-old that they're a quote-unquote ped. They have this same complex, although in a somewhat different way. False martyr syndrome. It even makes me think about how, I think it was in Revelations, maybe Matthew. It says, once the beast system really rolls out, people who are a part of the beast system will unalive you for no reason, and they'll think that they're doing God a favor. People think that they're doing God a favor by allowing other people to be victimized and allowing themselves to be victimized. They think they're doing God a favor by knowing that, I don't know, their uncle is essaying all their kids and doing nothing. They're doing nothing because they're quote-unquote forgiven and turning the other cheek. The only cheeks getting turned are not yours. And people can say what they want to say, but if I'm like out somewhere and I see somebody run up on someone and try to like kidnap them and they try to kidnap me, I already know this is going to be sent to Palantir, but I'm not just going to stand there. You can turn the other cheek, you can turn the other shackle and turn the other, what's those things called, zip tie, and turn the other, I don't know, getting beat. You can do whatever you want to do, but I'm not going to do it. But definitely, due to how things are set up, I would always advise trying to run. As I say in another video, like somebody told me, never argue with people that have the ability to ruin your life. And as another person told me, back away slowly and quietly. Because I don't want people to like, I don't know, get in trouble or whatever. I don't want people to end up in another bad situation and be stuck there forever on a life sentence or, I don't know, unalivement row over some bull crap. But so every situation is different. Not everybody can gray rock. Gray rocking / stonewalling can make some situations more dangerous. Then, of course, there's the people that were saying the Menendez brothers were grown men because they were 18 and only women are victims because only women can't leave abuse situations, but the kids of parents can. That's just so backwards. Women have rights, youth don't. Especially in a parent situation or a family situation, you're always going to be the quote-unquote bad guy, or really any guardian. And I've said ever since I was 12, maybe even younger, there is no such thing as women and children. Women have rights, children don't. There really isn't even a such thing as women and men and youth, to be honest. It's honestly sick and insane that somebody would even make women the victim compared to, like, kids in a situation like that with their parents. Like, it also goes into the whole silver spoon jealousy that I mentioned in the other video. I'm using T.I.'s son as an example because people are always talking about he's a silver spoon kid. Because people don't really care about all the rituals that happen to you or that you have to witness in these bloodlines and in these, like, Mason and etc. Organization families. I also feel like there's, like, some Willie Lynch syndrome stuff as well in that situation because people are always talking about he looks like a French fry. Well, that's kind of another video. But, yeah, so this lady was also like, women don't have the finances to leave, like, kids of abusive parents to do. And it's like, what in the world? And it's like, if you don't have the finances to leave, that means you've been, like, either going through infantilization and financial abuse. So, like, I would say probably most abused kids do these days. A lot of abused kids aren't allowed to have a job. Or if they are allowed to work or forced to work, all their money is stolen. Or you got into this relationship because you wanted somebody to take care of you and provide for you. And now you're realizing that you need to leave, but the money and nothing belongs to you. Not to mention kids of abusive guardians, especially ones with that type of money, they're going to be reported missing regardless. Doesn't matter if they're 18 or not. But also with that type of money, it's very easy to get them found, or to at least put money on people's head and be like, if you report them, I'll give you this amount of money. Especially if the person claims they're quote unquote mentally ill, but people put in anonymous tips to get that money regardless. An abused woman can legally leave. Not saying it would be that easy, but it can't be compared to this type of situation with the quote unquote guardian and kid because there's more power dynamics.